It's Firearms Friday at the Wyoming State Museum here in Cheyenne. My name's Evan Green. I'm the firearms historian for the museum and have been working in the firearms collection for about the last 5 years. I wanted to feature this little pistol. It's not going to be a very long video, but one of the things that's interesting about it is how we acquired it. I was in my work area and the supervisor of collections asked me if I would come look at some handguns, some guns that were donated by the Goodwill store in town. And I went, what? So I went downstairs, and there were three objects. Two of them were just wall hangers. They had been bought as decorative. They didn't even resemble actual firearms enough to be used in our education programs. But this was one. This is a really nice little Pepperbox revolver. And while I don't know for sure, my research would indicate that it was made in London by a manufacturer named Manton, who was also made very high quality firearms. And this one is really nice. A lot of the Pepperboxes, we have a couple in the collection, and some of them are pretty crude. This one appears to be perhaps silver plated. It's got engraving on it. The top of the hammer is engraved. The barrels are nicely finished. Walnut stalks are really, really pretty. It's interesting because on the side of it, it says improved revolving pistol. And I'm not sure why it's improved, but it's, again, a very high quality little gun. And surprising, and I mentioned it to the supervisor of collections. I said, what, Goodwill? And she said, it's happened before, that they'll get a bag or a box or a cardboard box full of stuff, and there'll be a gun in there. You know, I've never been able to buy a gun at Goodwill, so maybe I should go more often. But anyway, Pepperboxes, I'm going to have to read my favorite quote from, this is Mark Twain from his book Roughing It. If you've not read it, it's one of the few books that I can read that makes me laugh out loud. So they're talking about, he and Samuel Clemens and his brother are on their way to Nevada because his brother has been appointed Secretary of the Territory. So he says, talking about another passenger on the stagecoach that they're taking to Nevada, Mr. George Bemis was dismally formidable. George Bemis was our fellow traveler. We had never seen him before. He wore in his belt an old original Allen revolver, such as irreverent people called a Pepperbox. So it was something like this. This one clearly not an Allen. Allen was an American manufacturer of this type of pistol. Simply drawing the trigger back, cocked and fired the pistol. As the trigger came back, the hammer would begin to rise and the barrel to turn over, and presently down would drop the hammer and away would speed the ball. To aim along the turning barrel and hit the thing aimed at was a feat which was probably never done with an Allen in the world. But George's was a reliable weapon nonetheless. As one of the stage drivers afterwards said, if she didn't get what she went after, she would fetch something else. And so she did. She went after the deuce of spades nailed against a tree once and fetched a mule standing about 30 yards to the left of it. Bemis did not want the mule, but the owner came out with a double-barreled shotgun and persuaded him to buy it anyway. It was a cheerful weapon, the Allen. Sometimes all its 6 barrels would go off at once, and then there was no safe place in all the region round about but behind it. So, the Pepperbox. And again, I thought a very high-quality little revolver. They were cheaper than the equivalent Colt or Smith & Wesson revolvers at the time, but as he said, there's no sights. And it is double action only in that sense that pulling the trigger both raises that big hammer and then drops it onto one of these percussion nipples. So again, how they hit anything with this at any range, as Mark Twain points out, is a real problem or a reason for concern if you're using one of these. But again, I thought the session story was interesting, and it's a little high-quality little gun. So that's it for today's episode. If you have any comments or questions about Wyoming history or firearms or just want to chat, I'm always willing to do that. So you can call the museum at its main number. You can find that on the homepage for the Wyoming State Museum. They'll take a message and I will get back to you. Thank you for watching.